Hello, and welcome to our Donate Life Month speaker webinar hosted by CORE. The purpose of this program is to help you prepare to share your story in one of our upcoming events. Before we get started, let me introduce you to our team. My name is Nancy Steiger, and I'm the volunteer coordinator for CORE. I have the privilege of working with amazing transplant recipients, donor families, living donors, and donation supporters throughout our service area to raise awareness of the need of registered organ donors, and so that each of the 115,000 U.S. citizens currently waiting for a life-saving transplant is able to get that special gift of life. I earned my bachelor's degree in public relations from Penn State University, my master's degree in communications from Duquesne University. Also photographed with me to my left and my right are members of our community outreach team. You may see one of them at your event, probably taking a picture, so feel free to say hello. Now, you might also recognize one person in this picture who is not actually CORE staff. That's Joy Starzl, widow of the incredible transplant surgeon Tom Starzl. She's a wonderful advocate for our cause, and we're very happy to have her as a partner. Here at CORE, our mission is simple: to save and enhance lives. We partner with more than 150 hospitals throughout Western Pennsylvania and West Virginia to bridge the gap between donors and transplant waiting list candidates. Our vision is that every potential donor will make the pledge for life, but we can't make that vision a reality without some help. We count on our volunteers, hospital partners, and members of the community to support our cause and advocate for life. Our busiest and most active month of the year for advocacy is April, which is Donate Life Month. Donate Life Month is a national observance led by Donate Life America and carried out by each organ procurement organization throughout our country. During this month, we are raising Donate Life flags and dedicating donor memorials, all for the purpose of honoring our organ, tissue, and cornea donors and donor families, to celebrate the gift of life, to recognize our hospital partners in their role in the donation and transplantation processes, and of course, to encourage everyone to be a hero, be an organ donor. Each of these events features speakers from our hospitals and our CORE leadership, reiterating the importance of donation and honoring our donor families and donor heroes. But what makes each event special are the stories shared by you. Being able to recognize one of our life-saving donors or hearing about someone's second chance of life really reinforces why this is all so important and why we do what we do. So thank you for agreeing to be one of those incredible testimonials and sharing your story at one of our events. We're so grateful that you said yes to support us that in return we want to make sure that you feel prepared to participate. Let's start with planning for that day of the event. We recommend arriving at least 15 minutes prior to the program. This gives you time to meet with your CORE representative, use the restroom if you need to, and take some time to relax before the event starts. You are encouraged to bring family and friends. Please just let us know if you will be joined by more than 4 members so we can ensure that everyone has a seat if it is a seated event. You should dress in something that you feel comfortable in. That is also something that you would feel comfortable getting your picture taken in. We recommend business casual or business professional attire. Plan to speak for about 5 minutes, but don't be nervous. You'll be surrounded by those that care, our CORE staff, nurses, physicians, and community members that appreciate your participation and are inspired by your story. Now, what to say? This is the part of the program that you can feel free to fast forward through parts, pause it when you need to, and review the section that pertains to you. I'm going to be going through outlines for each of our Connect to Purpose speakers, so listen carefully to the category that aligns with your story. First, we'll start with our transplant recipients. While no one knows your story better than you do, we recommend organizing your thoughts in the following way. Start with telling us about your life before a transplant. Were you leading a fairly normal and healthy life? Or have you suffered from a lifelong condition or an illness? When did you realize that you were going to need a transplant? Was that something that you always knew was a possibility, or were you shocked to hear the news from your doctor? Tell us about that time waiting. Did you wait for a really long time, or did you get that call quickly after being listed? Were there restrictions or limitations while you waited? Were you on dialysis or have an LVAD? What was that time like for your family? Next, tell us about that day when you got the call. Were you excited or more nervous? How did your family react? Was there anything particularly memorable or unique about that day? Next, life after transplant. Now, we know that there can be some bumps along the way of recovery, but overall, share with the audience some of the things you can now enjoy with your second chance of life. Are you able to do things that you couldn't before, like traveling or exercising without exhaustion, or spending time with your family that wasn't promised before your transplant? Also, take some time to reflect on your donor and their family. Recognize them for this special gift and let us know if you've been able to connect with them. Finally, it's important to recognize our hospital staff for helping to make donation and transplantation possible. Next, we'll go over the outline for our donor families. Now, we know that this will be an emotional story for you to share, and we want you to know that it's okay if those emotions show during your speech. Pauses and tears are perfectly normal and acceptable from our donor family presenters, or from any of our presenters. So don't be discouraged if you find yourself needing to take a moment for composure. You are in a room filled with people that will understand, and they respect the courage that it takes to speak about the tragic loss that you've experienced. To prepare, we recommend starting by telling everyone about your loved one. What were they like? What did they enjoy doing? How would their friends describe them? Now, the next parts will be especially difficult, but do your best to tell us about the donation process and what events led up to that. What were you feeling, and how did that experience affect friends and family? Finally, tell us how you feel now about your loved one being a hero. Has that provided any comfort during your time of loss? Were you able to connect with any of the recipients of their gifts? Finally, feel free to recognize any staff members who may have cared for your loved one at that difficult time. If you're struggling to find the words, I understand, and I'm happy to work with you one-on-one. Please, just let me know. Next, we will be going over the outline for our living donors. Guys, you are living, breathing heroes that can inspire anyone to save a life. This is amazing. To begin, tell us about your life before you donated. Now, this is probably pretty general, but let us know what you do for a living, what hobbies you enjoy, and help us to get to know you. Next, when did you realize that there was a need for a donor? Was there someone that you knew that needed an organ, or was there a TV commercial that inspired you? What made you decide to get tested, and what was that testing process like? What did your family and friends think? Were they apprehensive at first, or were they totally supportive? Next, share with us that transplant experience and what life has been like since. Do you have a relationship with your recipient if you didn't before? Are you back to enjoying the things that you love? Finally, recognize any hospital staff for their part in making living donation and transplantation possible. Now, our last outline will be for waiting list candidates. This is one of our shorter outlines, but it is one that is incredibly powerful. Once again, to begin, tell us about yourself. What was your life like before you knew you needed a transplant? What kind of things did you enjoy doing? When did you learn that you were going to be listed for an organ transplant? Was this something that was shocking, or were you expecting this for some time? Has your life changed since you started waiting? Do you have any limitations or fears that you may not get the call? Last, tell us how this is affecting your family, and if you've ever thought about your potential donor and their family. Okay, now that you have an idea of how to organize your thoughts, I'm going to share some tips and some what not to do's for speaking. First, do take some time to prepare. Now, you've already started to do this by watching the webinar, but we also recommend you actually jotting down some of your ideas and thoughts and putting them to the outlines that we've provided. Do not stress on specific dates. Nobody's going to care if you remember what day of the week you were listed or what day of the month that you got the call. Also, don't try to use medical jargon if you're not comfortable with that. Do, however, try to use these appropriate terms: brain death and recovery when applicable. But do not say harvest. That word sounds harsh to the public. Last, stress the positives and remember the purpose. We know that donation and transplantation can be difficult and challenging to share with the audience, but try to remember that we're here to recognize the important and positive outcomes of a second chance of life and remembering a donor hero. Last but not least, let's cover the media. Local news stations may show up to cover the event. This is great as it enables more people to hear about the amazing and easy opportunity to save lives by registering as an organ donor. We want you to know you do not have to speak to the media if you do not feel comfortable doing so. We would never force anyone to do an interview against their will, so we don't want you to feel pressured to do so. We will try and give you a heads up if we know members of the media will be attending so that you can decide beforehand what you feel comfortable with, and we can help to give you some tips before going on camera or speaking to a reporter. In general, you can use the outline and some of the tips that we've gone over today when sharing your story with media members, but please let a core member know if you've been approached so we're aware of the activity. Okay. So that about covers the basics of what you need to know to prepare for one of our Donate Life Month events. Please do not hesitate to call, text, or email me if you're still uncertain about what to say or do. I'm happy to help. Most importantly, thank you. We can't do what we do without our donors, our donor families, and our supporters in the community. We sincerely appreciate your participation and want you to know that what you're doing is making a difference.